Hey there, this is Eric. You've probably seen a bunch of my drone videos. I'm just going to go over some of the equipment that I'm using. Sorry if it might be rambling. I haven't really thought it all through, but we'll kind of go with what I've got here. Obviously, the edition I've got has the GoPro edition, Phantom 2. If I had to do it all over again, I wouldn't have gone that route. Shortly after I bought this Phantom 2, about a month later, they came out with the Phantom 3. And if you've studied that at all, the Phantom 3 is probably a really great value for the money. You're getting, with the Phantom 3, streaming in HD quality, better range. One of the things you kind of gave up, and I think they maybe have it again now, is, with this model you have something called ground station. It did not come with that. It didn't come with anything that would help you do first person viewing, meaning you couldn't monitor or see what the drone was seeing, and that sucked. That ended up being a lot more money for that. You would do well to do the package. Now that said, I kind of see the Phantom 2 sticking around for quite a while. It's kind of a legacy platform. It's got good battery life, 20 minutes. I see a lot of other third-party people making different mounts for whether it's cameras, night vision, different types of optical sensors. The copter itself is really rugged, reliable. Any crashes I've ever had with it were my fault, no fault of DJI or the Phantom. It was stupid mistakes I've done. It's been rock solid. So I guess more to what I'm running here. The package I got was the Phantom 2 with the H3 Design Muse gimbal. The gimbal, I know they preach it a lot on YouTube and different places, always update the firmware of the copter, update the firmware of the gimbal. I didn't do that right away with the gimbal, and ironically, it never worked right for the first probably 3 or 4 months I owned it. It wasn't until I did a firmware update that I actually got full use of the gimbal. It was acting quirky, and it seems to be something common with these Zenmuse gimbals that, if something's acting strange, if it goes limp, do a hard reset, and then you start working again. So it's something you should probably get familiar with if you did go with a system like this, or if you have one. Other stuff I've got on here, I had the OSD Mini installed so I can do the first person viewing. I've got a immersion transmitter for video with a Fat Shark antenna. I had a Fat Shark antenna and a regular dipole on here. The Fat Sharks are better, definitely on the copter, that's the way to go, but I went with circular wireless on this antenna here, and I know a lot of people said they were good and they're a bit directional, allegedly, but it was $80, and it seemed like a lot, but this thing was probably the best money I spent. This thing I can view probably up to a kilometer away. This whole video on this thing for me was a struggle because it was worthless. I mean, you could see the copter, but you couldn't see video on the screen. What was the point of that? I mean, it's not cheap to get it that way, and it wasn't working. But this antenna made it all worthwhile. As far as a monitor, I'm running a Black Pearl. It's a Diversity. You can see the lights switching here. The copter's not on right now, so it's searching for a signal. But all in all, it seems to be a pretty good monitor. This thing's taken a bit of abuse. When I first started out, I had it on a tripod, and the tripod tipped over a few times. It's a short answer, and it's been whacked hard to the point where I don't think that this particular antenna is working anymore. That said, it doesn't seem to matter. I know they claim these circular antennas are very directional, and they are to an extent, but this has been such an awesome antenna. Anytime you're in around close to it, it works fine. So I guess what I'm saying is the diversity part of this monitor is probably somehow damaged. This one antenna doesn't work the way it should. I would think that the Fat Shark, and if I move them, this port seems to be dead. So not the end of the world. It seems to work great with just this antenna. I guess what spoiled me was I had a friend that bought a new Phantom 3 Professional, and you know, you're streaming in HD. You get that on an iPad or something like that, and the picture is outstanding. And one thing I really noticed, a lot of people claim that the GoPro is a better camera than some of the other DJI factory options, but you know, the GoPro is a great camera. It's flexible, a lot of different settings, a lot of versatility. You know, it's not a bad option, but what I did notice in the Phantom 3 Professional in low light situations, it really was impressive. It was almost to the point where what you see is what the camera was going to record, and to me that was impressive. I've done a little bit of flying in the evening with the GoPro, and it's useless. It's you can't see anything. If you're flying on the peripheral of a town or something, you see spots of light. You see nothing. So, and that boils down to, you know, the aperture of the camera. I mean, the GoPro's probably got a 5mm, you know, lens on the front of it. You know, for the size and money, it does really well. Where the Phantom 3 and that camera that's on the Professional, you know, it's 3 times the size. So obviously the light gathering is going to be 3 times better at least. One thing I noticed too with the Phantom 3 Professional, a lot more range of motion in the gimbal, a lot smoother. The copter itself is a lot more powerful. You know, you start adding stuff onto these Phantoms, and you know, when they're stripped, you know, they got decent power, but the Phantom 3 is a real step up. The factory camera is really nice. The interface is nice. Another thing, I guess, kind of a complaint on the GoPro is, you know, you can't change the settings. You know, you have to hit record and then start flying the airplane. You can't change your camera settings. You can't stop recording. You can't start recording. It's kind of like push the button and go. And that's not the end of the world, but I did notice on the Phantom 3, all of that is available for you to change video settings, take snapshots, you know, while the copter is flying, and I think that's pretty neat. One thing you gave up with the Phantom 3 that was something I use a lot on this was the ground station. If you wanted to send it on missions, you know, on a pre-programmed flight, this one, there again, it was extra, but for a while I don't believe that the Phantom 3 had that. Now I think they may have something similar. I don't know if it's as good. I haven't really played with that part of it, but to me that was a lot of fun, sending it to flying missions. And yeah, and one of the main things too I'd emphasize with people too is if you are flying, you know, using ground station, one thing I did not know is when you set it to fly at 50 meters, 60 meters, whatever, it's measuring that from the point you take off. Now obviously if there's a water tower or a tree in the way and you set it to fly 10 feet, these things don't have any collision avoidance. They'll smack into it and crash. But I guess I thought, you know, if you set it to fly 50 meters and there's a hill or something, that it would kind of follow the terrain, and that's not true. It's 50 meters from the spot you take off. So if you're down in a valley and the hill is 100 meters high, you set it to fly at 90 meters, you're going to crash. It doesn't know. It goes from whatever height you took off at, and that's what it'll fly. Kind of not intuitive to what you'd think. You know, we always think if you say fly 100 feet, you'd say 100 feet off the ground, not 100 feet off the particular spot. One way to avoid that is, I found, is just take off from the highest spot in the area if you can. Be on top of the hill or the mountain, and you know, that way you won't run into that. But it is something to be aware of, because man, we see these are expensive, and that's how I crashed. these things are serviceable. I did crash this really hard once. It took me a while to find it. I had to put a new shell on it. One of the motors was burnt out from that crash. All the parts are available online and pretty cheap, really. I mean, the whole shell, $60. I don't know, motors are maybe 15, 20 bucks. So, yeah, you're not bad to fix. And the same with the GoPro. My poor gimbal's been hammered. You know, it's been in a couple crashes. Ironically, I flew for 6 months right from the start and never really crashed it. And gradually you start getting more brave and taking more chances, and that's how you learn. But yeah, it's been in a couple wrecks. One of the advantages of having a third-party gimbal like this in the GoPro is I foresee in the future that you'll still be able to get parts for GoPro and the gimbal, whereas the factory cameras on the Phantom 2, I don't know how much support there'll be for that in 3 or 4 years. Who knows? And if you break that, that's it. I don't, if DJI doesn't support that, why it won't be there. So anyway, I guess that's kind of what we're flying with here. You've probably seen a lot of my videos, and I definitely would like to upgrade, get some a nicer drone. This has gotten to the point where the gimbal's gotten a little twitchy, and I'm not so sure that there is a fix to it. It's a little bent, a little tweaked. It's served well, but I don't know. As far as high-end video, I don't think this one's got it in it anymore. So anyway, well, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys later.